For those of you who watched the previous video, this is the second attempt at placing a dray or a choice of drays in this particular big gum tree. I didn't realise at the time, but I was going to have a bit of a problem with some bees because it's actually springtime here in Western Australia and the bees are very, very active. I'd placed that grey box plus the dray in that gum tree, and I'd also attached a rope to make it easy for the little possum to climb across between the trunks of the trees. Little did I know that the bees were going to be a recurring problem. As you can see in this video there, the bees are just buzzing around, and I put a blue cloth and some gum tree branches in there to try and stop them going in there, because the box was originally designed to give the possum another choice. This was based on designs on the internet of possum boxes, and it actually turned out that it wasn't very successful at all because of the bees. So it was back to the drawing board and back up the ladder, and I decided, right, okay, these bees are going to invade this place. So I opened the whole lid of the box, and I have a spray there just to protect me in case I get stung, or to prevent me from being stung, and pulled everything back out. And having thought about that, I thought, right, the whole box has to come down, and so now I have to remove the dray and decide where I want to actually put it, because the chain was a fairly good anchor point to put the box up there. Anyway, I eventually got another idea and hung it on the branch that's just to the left of my big buffet there, and then set the whole thing in motion again. Now I have to tell you, that box was made out of scrap pallet material, and it's very, very heavy. So now I'm trying to figure out, hey, what do I want to do here? And eventually what I had to do was to unhook the chain from around the tree, and I actually had to just physically push the box off the tree and let it fall to the ground and hope that it didn't break, because I do want to use it eventually as a box for parrots who come around the property. And hopefully by sort of next year, next spring, I'll re-erect the boxes in another place on the property, and we might be able to attract some parrots, and that would be an interesting thing to get on the trail camera. So that's another little project to think about for the coming year or so. You just saw me there throw the box to the ground in disgust. Now, within a very short space of time, we had a Western Ringtail Possum come up and investigate, as you can see there, having a bit of a sniff. And bear in mind that, you know, I've been touching this thing, so my scent is probably on it. And he's being very wary, as wild animals are. But hey, he didn't run away from it anyway, let's say. Now this was the first night of the repositioned dray being in that spot, and so obviously this fellow is a little bit wary, and you know, it looks like now he's sort of trying to figure a way to get down, and that rope seems to be a bit of a problem for him. Anyway, he obviously wasn't too scared, and now he's going to shoot up the tree. Now during the day the camera is still able to operate, and obviously some slight movements trigger it, and you end up with a heap of footage. You can see there's a little bee there, and there's branches moving in the background. That's what triggers the camera off. So I have to edit a whole heap of scenes out of this before I make the movie, so to speak. So every morning I get up and I check the camera through the Wi-Fi system and see if there's anything interesting happened. And usually you get a lot of nothingness because of the breeze blowing, and like if something disturbed that rope, for instance, it might trigger the camera off. So I was quite happy to see some of this particular footage where the possum is still hanging around, and in actual fact you can see now he's having a pretty good sniff at this. Now I've seen this happen before on another tree, because I do have another camera and dreys set up on another tree about 10-15 metres away from this one. But this was quite heartening to see that this little guy kept coming back, and although there doesn't appear to be an awful lot happening, you can actually see that he's up there eating at the leaves, and he seems quite happy, and now he's come back. There is an interval with each of these scenes because I've set them for taping for about 35 seconds per scene, and on this one now he's hovering all the way around it. But it's interesting from the point of view of behaviour, because these are, as we say, ringtail possums, and they use their tail to help them in the trees. You see that tail moving. If you watch closely with a lot of these scenes, you see the tail is sort of like another arm in a sense. Now he's going to go back behind the tree and have a bit of a chew on some gum leaves. But you see that tail, it's pretty prehensile sort of a thing that he can use. So now he's just wandering around this tree and he's having a sniff. But notice that tail. Every time he makes a bit of a move, the tail sort of stretches out behind him and seems to interact with whatever it is near there, ready to jump or ready to grab onto something, and it's coming up in a tick. Watch the tail. It wraps around that little branch. See that? That's why they call it a ringtail possum. Now this is a great example of how they use their tails to help them so that they don't fall off. And it's a similar thing how kangaroos use their tails to keep balanced when they're standing upright on their two hind legs. Now you can see that he's showing a little bit of interest here, and this is getting to the part which makes it really worthwhile. Now he's investigating this. Look at that. Head goes in. I did put gum leaves in there, so he knows that there's some sort of food in there as well. And this is the whole purpose of this, to try and say to him, hey, here's a nice little space for you. Look, he's going in. That's not a very big entrance. Ha ha, wow. Now whether or not he uses this on a regular basis remains to be seen, but after I downloaded this and saw that he'd actually been in there and had a little bit of an investigation, I've removed all the other obstructions that might have been around, and I'm just going to leave this camera in situ for a while and check it every morning just to see what happens with his behaviour. So it appears that the dray that's made from two hanging baskets together can be quite successful. So we'll keep you informed as to what goes on if anything further exciting happens. And thank you for watching.